While the rules settled in, a new breed of company tested the market's edges. Service Corporation International, founded in 1962, started rolling up mom-and-pop homes, keeping local names on the awning while standardizing everything behind the desk. Carriage and Foundation Partners followed. The idea was simple: buy fragmented businesses at small multiples, centralize the back office, create uniform good, better, best packages, and grow margins with consistency, not care. Today, SCI towers over the landscape. More than 1,900 funeral homes and cemeteries across 44 states, serving over 600,000 families a year, with a market cap hovering around $11.5 billion. That scale doesn't just mean more hearses. It means purchasing power on caskets and vaults, shared call centers, pricing templates that can be pushed system-wide, and websites that look local while routing to corporate funnels. When a community name stays on the door, the trust stays too. The pricing power follows. Meanwhile, vulnerabilities baked into grief never changed. Death arrives with a deadline. You've got days, sometimes hours, to decide on transport, disposition, and paperwork. Information asymmetry is brutal. Most people buy a funeral once or twice in a lifetime, while the director across the desk arranges dozens every month. Pre-need contracts, pitched as gifts to your future self, move tomorrow's money into today's pipeline. Bundles hide individual costs, and emotions make even simple refusals feel like disrespect. Into that mix walked private equity with a thesis tailor-made for death care, services plus real estate. Funeral homes aren't just businesses. They're buildings with dedicated chapels, prep rooms, and prime corners next to long-established cemeteries. Cemeteries themselves are land banks with recurring revenue. Plots, open and close fees, markers, vaults, and perpetual care. It's a classic roll-up. Buy at 4 to 6 times EBITDA from aging owners, standardize, raise prices, cross-sell cemetery and memorial products, then exit at 8 to 10 times because now it's platform scale. The packaging looks professional. Price sheets become tiered, celebration of life experiences. Cremation, once the low-cost alternative, gets a halo of add-ons. Upgraded urns, private viewings, priority scheduling, webcasts, keepsake jewelry. The funeral rules itemization is observed, but the framing nudges you away from a la carte toward curated bundles that feel respectful and complete. What nobody tells you in the moment is that framing is the product. What nobody tells you at the regulation level is just as important. The funeral rule requires price lists be given in person and by phone. It doesn't require them online. That's where corporate scale compounds. Consolidators pour money into search engine optimization. So when you Google affordable cremation near me, you land on a lead gen page that isn't the independent down the block. It's the chain that bought their competitor. You think you're shopping. You're already in the funnel. Now layer in cremation's rise. Cremation should reduce costs. It often doesn't. Corporations leaned into cremation volume by re-engineering margins around memorialization. SCI has steadily shifted revenue toward cremation services while preserving profitability with upsells and package logic. Independents tried to keep pace. Some sold. Others watched their calls migrate to the chain's call centers, where a script meets you with empathy, then a ladder, transfer fee, identification, care and shelter, package tiers, and finally the emotional closer. Most families choose. This was the moment finance and ritual fully merged. Sale-leasebacks extracted cash from funeral home real estate and turned land into a rent obligation. Debt layered on steady cash flows from at-need and pre-need sales. Dividends and fees skimmed cash to the top long before exits. The operating incentive sharpened. Maximize average revenue per family and minimize time per arrangement. The family's clock is a vulnerability. The firm's clock is a quarterly report. These forces didn't just tilt the market. They rewrote the language around grief. Required for sanitation sounds like law. In many states, it's policy. Cash advance reads like a pass-through. It often isn't. The fine print on pre-need plans guarantees service fees, but not cemetery costs or third-party charges. Exactly the parts unions struggle to contest later. If the provider merges or closes, substitution clauses can leave you with less than you thought you'd locked. And because regulation slowed, teeth dulled. The FTC enforces the funeral rule, but relies on complaints and spot checks, and penalties are modest. Updating rules for the digital age, like mandatory online price posting, has dragged. After the Supreme Court undercut agency deference in 2024, the path to stronger federal guardrails got steeper, and the industry's lawyers noticed. While that was happening in Houston boardrooms, families across the country kept signing contracts they didn't really want, at prices they didn't really see, under a clock they didn't set. That's how a ritual became a business model, and a business model became an extractive system. Now we follow how the roll-up works in practice, where the numbers move, and how that pen reaches $24,987 before you even realize the ink is dry. The private equity playbook: roll up, rebrand, reprice. The algorithm looks simple on a slide deck. Identify a fragmented market where most operators are nearing retirement. Margins can be standardized, and customers don't shop twice. That's death care. Private equity arrives with a promise: succession for the owner, continuity for the town, upgrades for the building. Behind the scenes, the numbers are clearer than the condolences. Step 1. Buy at 4 to 6 times EBITDA. The pitch to the owner is subtle: protect your legacy, keep your name, take care of your staff. The purchase agreement includes an earn-out, so the seller stays on for 2 years to smooth calls and hand over relationships. The sign out front doesn't change. The payroll and purchasing systems do. Centralization moves quickly: accounting, HR, marketing, phone triage, pricing templates. While that's happening across town, a second acquisition closes, then a third. The new parent quietly controls 3 independents in a 10-mile radius. Families think they're calling around. They're not. Back-office consolidation means one call center fields all 3 numbers. The script opens with empathy and urgency, then moves to options. The options are the point. Step 2. Rebrand without rebranding. Legacy names stay, and sons, family, memorial. The websites share the same structure and lead forms, all feeding the same CRM. Obituaries hosted on memorial pages double as storefronts for flowers, candles, and video tributes, with margins routed back to the network. Preferred vendors get exclusivity. Local florists and printers either accept the new split or lose the work. The illusion of choice survives the sale. Step 3. Reprice. The general price list still exists, but it's reframed into good, better, best. The base direct cremation looks low, often used for SEO. The moment a family wants to see mom or hold a service, the package ladder starts climbing. The basic services of funeral director and staff. The non-declinable fee anchors the ticket. Facility fees, staff time for visitation, and care and shelter are structured as mandatory steps toward what most families feel is respectful. A la carte becomes friction. Bundles become relief. What nobody knew at the time of acquisition: small line items hold the biggest levers. Refrigeration, paperwork processing, removal after hours, weekend surcharges, and priority scheduling for cremation. Each feels rational when viewed alone. In combination, they move a funeral from $3,000 to $7,500, from $7,500 to $12,000. Caskets present another tier. Third-party caskets are allowed by law, but policy creates soft penalties, tight delivery windows, storage disclaimers, fit not guaranteed. Families back away from friction under time pressure. Meanwhile, pre-need becomes tomorrow's certainty, sold today. The sales team is retrained to offer protection from inflation through trusts and insurance-backed plans. Commissions are baked in. The guarantee language is precise. Services are protected. Cemetery and third-party costs are not. If the provider is later sold, substitution clauses ensure the contract flows to the new owner. Portability looks clean until a family tries to move a plan across state lines and finds surrender penalties or value leakage. On the P&L, synergies start appearing. Central purchasing cuts casket and vault costs. Lead gen beats local word of mouth. SEO pages for affordable cremation siphon calls from independents. Average revenue per arrangement ticks up as scripts tighten and staff are bonused on conversion and package tier adoption. Training shifts the culture from counselor to closer. Most families choose becomes not just a line, but a metric. What nobody tells the community is the exit math. Roll-up sell on multiple expansion. Buy a single home at 5 times earnings, combine 10 homes, demonstrate standardized pricing and steady cash flow, then sell the platform at 8 to 10 times. In the middle, dividend recaps pull cash out, and real estate sale leasebacks turn owned property into rent obligations. The business looks more asset-light on paper, but the monthly overhead rises. That overhead has one reliable payer: families under deadline. While that was happening in New York, a similar pattern unfolded in small southern towns. Independents facing cremation pressure considered discount models. Chains countered with celebration of life menus, professional video, live streams, and grief subscriptions on memorial sites. The cultural language shifted from rights to products. The price followed the production value. The playbook thrives in opacity. The FTC's funeral rule requires itemized lists, but it doesn't force online disclosure. That gap is where private equity builds moats. If you can't see prices without a call, the call becomes the showroom. Scripts control order, framing, and tempo. We can honor your wishes pairs with "here's what families typically do." By the time a quote arrives, a dozen small yes have already pushed the total north. There's one more move: vertical integration. Owning the funeral home is step one. Adding the cemetery is step two. Once both are under one roof, cross-sell economics kick in. Plots, vaults, opening and closing markers, perpetual care, mausoleum premiums. Transfer fees and right of interment, fine print create decades-long dependencies. A single signature binds a family to a single provider for generations. This is the roll-up, rebrand, reprice engine. It doesn't look predatory from the lobby. It feels organized, caring, comprehensive. The pressure is in the clock, the menu, and the sequence. And if you're wondering when families feel it most, that comes next, when grief meets the invoice, and the add-ons turn invisible choices into unavoidable charges. The $25,000 shock, at-need price escalators. You feel it the minute the arrangement conference starts. The general price list slides across the table, but the first number that actually matters is the non-declinable basic services of funeral director and staff. It sounds like overhead because it is paperwork, coordination, a 24-hour response line, and it's mandatory. That fee anchors the bill before anyone chooses a room, a casket, or even a time. You can try to go simple. The floor still rises. Meanwhile, facility and staff charges take turns becoming essential. Want to see your father for 15 minutes to say goodbye? That triggers a visitation block, not 5 minutes of staff time. The chapel you didn't ask for appears as a line item because a private farewell must happen somewhere, and the somewhere has a price. On weekends or after hours, the same room costs more. The calendar itself is monetized. Embalming sits on the list as optional, but the narrative shifts fast. You're told it's standard for a meaningful viewing, or that refrigeration can cause delays if you don't authorize chemical preservation. In many states, no law requires embalming for a service without public viewing, yet the way it's framed carries an implied duty. Turning it down sounds like cutting a corner. Under grief, corners feel like disrespect. Then the quiet margins arrive: refrigeration per day, permit processing, obituary handling, and removal fees that jump at 6 p.m. and double at midnight. Care and shelter appears as a daily charge even if the cremation won't occur until the paperwork clears. Paperwork often managed by the same provider charging to manage it. Each piece feels defensible. Together, they become a stairway you climb without noticing the grade. Caskets turn that stairway into a lock. The funeral rule says they must accept a third-party casket. The policy packet makes it hard. There's delivery window fee if the truck misses a 2-hour slot, a fit not guaranteed clause that shifts risk to you, and a storage disclaimer if the casket arrives too early. If you back out of a showroom pick after signing, a restocking fee appears. The law is on your side, the clock is not. Most families yield to the path with fewer alarms. Cash advances look like pass-throughs, flowers, clergy honorariums, newspaper obituaries, death certificates. You assume cost equals cost. The invoice says otherwise. A facilitation, percentage rides along, or preferred vendors come pre-selected on a memorial page the funeral home controls. You can order your own arrangement online, but then you'll face a delivery handling fee or a suggestion that non-preferred flowers might arrive late before the service. Again, friction does the work of policy. Cremation advertising promises relief. A few $100s, simple, dignified. Call the number, and the base price covers only the act itself. Identification, required in many firms' policies, is billed as a separate visit. A private goodbye becomes a ceremonial viewing that pulls in staff and room charges. An urn upgrade replaces the cardboard box. Priority or expedited cremation shortens the wait for a fee. Even the handoff of ashes can carry an appointment charge if you need weekend pickup. The total crosses into thousands before anyone uses the chapel. Across town, families feel the same pattern with burial. The graveside committal looks cheaper than a chapel service until opening and closing fees, vault requirements, and tent or chairs show up on the cemetery side. If funeral home and cemetery share an owner, the coordination you didn't ask for becomes a package you can't split without penalties. The right of interment reads like ownership. The rules make it a license, with transfer fees if you change your mind. This is where the shock sets in, when you realize there's no single big gouge, just a dozen small gates. Each gate is timed to a decision you didn't plan to make, inside a week you didn't plan to live. The pen hovers over initials on a form you barely read. A staffer waits, kind but urgent, because the crematory schedule is tight, because the cemetery crew needs notice, because the newspaper's deadline is noon. Your choices narrow to yes now, or delays that feel like dishonor. What nobody tells you at the table is how these escalators were designed to operate together. The non-declinable fee guarantees revenue. Facility and staff charges monetize presence. Embalming norms monetize perception. Cash advances monetize convenience. Casket policies monetize fear of getting it wrong. Cremation packages monetize time. Under that structure, grief isn't just accommodated, it's priced. And when you ask why it costs this much, the answer sounds like logistics. The truth is incentives. Scripts turn courtesy into conversion. Bundles turn judgment calls into defaults. The bill turns invisible pressure into visible numbers. That's the moment totals leap from 16 to 25,000. Not because you wanted more, but because the system taught you to say yes faster than you could ask why. The funeral rule's weak teeth. 3 days earlier, before the contract and the pen, there was a rule meant to stop this.